Commander Jake Morrison stared at the empty communication screen for the 100th time that day. 3 months had passed since Earth went silent. Not a single message, not one trade ship, nothing at all. The silence felt wrong in ways that made his stomach twist. Jake stood on the bridge of Nexus Prime, the largest space station in this part of the galaxy. The station served as a meeting point for dozens of alien species and human traders. But now half the docking bays sat empty. No human ships meant no trade, no news, and no answers. Lieutenant Amy Brooks looked up from her communication panel. Her face showed the same worry that everyone felt. "Still nothing, Commander. I've tried every frequency we know. Earth's communication satellites are working, but nobody answers." Amy had been trying to contact Earth every day for months. She knew the communication systems better than anyone on the station. If she couldn't reach Earth, then something was seriously wrong. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss. Captain Lisa Carter walked in, followed by 2 of her crew members. Lisa commanded a ship called Star Weaver, crewed by tall, green-skinned aliens called Zephyrians. They looked like lizards that walked on 2 legs, but they were peaceful traders and good friends to humans. "Commander Morrison," Lisa said, her voice tight with concern. "We just returned from the Sol system. We need to talk." Jake felt his heart sink. Lisa's expression told him the news would be bad. "What did you find?" Lisa sat down heavily in one of the chairs. Her usual calm manner was gone. "The orbital stations around Earth are dark. No lights, no activity, no response to our signals. We tried to dock at Station Alpha, the big trading post near Earth's moon. The docking systems worked, but when we got inside, there was nobody there." Amy stopped working and turned to listen. Other crew members on the bridge also stopped what they were doing. "Nobody at all?" Jake asked. The station was clean and working perfectly. All the machines were running. The air was fresh. Food was still good in the storage areas, but there were no people anywhere. It looked like everyone just walked away and left everything running. One of Lisa's crew members, a Zephyrian named Sek, spoke up. "We checked the computers. The last entry was made 94 days ago. After that, only automatic systems made any records." Jake rubbed his forehead. 94 days matched exactly when Earth's communications stopped. "Did you try to contact the planet surface?" "Yes," Lisa said. "We sent signals to every major city. The communication networks are working, but nobody answered. We could see the cities from orbit. They looked normal, but there was no movement, no air traffic, no signs of life." Amy stood up from her station. "That's impossible. Earth has 8 billion people. They can't all just disappear." Jake had been thinking the same thing. Earth was the most active planet in known space. Humans were famous for never being quiet. They sent out entertainment signals, news broadcasts, scientific, data, and personal messages all day and night. The galaxy had gotten used to the constant chatter from Earth. "Did you see any damage?" Jake asked. "Signs of a fight or disaster?" Lisa shook her head. "Nothing like that. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. It was like everyone decided to leave at the same time and turned on automatic systems to keep everything running." Sek added, "We also checked other human colonies in nearby systems. 3 of them are the same way, empty but functioning normally." The bridge fell silent. Jake looked around at his mixed crew of humans and aliens. Everyone looked confused and worried. In all their years of space travel, nobody had seen anything like this. Dr. Kate Sullivan entered the bridge. She was the station's chief scientist. and expert on alien biology. "Commander, I've been analyzing the reports from Captain Carter's mission. I have some theories, but none of them are good." "Tell me," Jake said. Kate pulled up a display screen. "I've been studying human behavior for 20 years. Humans don't just leave. They argue, they debate, they make noise about decisions. Even if they wanted to evacuate Earth, it would take years of planning and thousands of ships. We would have seen the preparation." "So what do you think happened?" Amy asked. "Either something forced them to leave very quickly, or they planned this evacuation in complete secret. Both options worry me because humans aren't good at keeping secrets, especially big ones." Jake walked to the main viewing window. Outside, he could see ships from a dozen different species docked at the station. Crystalline ships of the ethereals glowed with soft light. The dark, efficient vessels of the hive minds sat next to the flowing, organic ships of the pelagics. All these species had come to depend on human trade and friendship. "Commander," Amy said softly, "what do we tell the other species? They're starting to ask questions. The ethereal ambassador wants to know why human trade has stopped. The hive minds are concerned about their technology exchange programs." Jake knew she was right. Humans had become the most active traders in the galaxy. They made friends easily and solved problems that other species couldn't handle. Many alien civilizations had grown to depend on human innovation and energy. "Send a message to Admiral Ben Parker," Jake decided. Admiral Parker was the highest-ranking human officer in the outer colonies. "Tell him we need an investigation fleet, something big enough to search the entire Sol system properly." Lisa stood up. "My ship and crew will join the investigation. The Zephyrians want answers too. Humans have been our best trading partners for 50 years. Dr. Sullivan nodded. "I'll prepare a scientific team. We need experts in different fields to figure out what happened." Jake looked back at the communication screen that still showed no signals from Earth. The silence felt like a weight pressing down on everyone. Humans were supposed to be loud, active, and always talking. This quiet was not natural. "There's something else," Lisa said quietly. "On our way back, we met ships from other species who had tried to visit human colonies. The same thing happened everywhere. Empty planets, working systems, no people." "How many colonies?" Jake asked. "At least 12 that we know of. Maybe more." Jake felt cold. 12 human colonies plus Earth, all empty at the same time. This wasn't an accident or a natural disaster. Something had happened to every human in known space, and whatever it was had been planned carefully. "Get me that fleet," Jake said to Amy, "and send messages to all our allies. Tell them we need their help to solve this mystery. If something could make all humans disappear overnight, it might threaten other species too." As his crew worked to send the messages, Jake stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans had vanished without a trace. The galaxy felt smaller and darker without their voices. Admiral Ben Parker stood in the command center of his flagship, the heavy cruiser Defiant. Around him, displays showed dozens of ships gathering for the largest investigation fleet in galactic history. Ships from 7 different species had answered the call to help solve the mystery of humanity's disappearance. Ben was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had commanded human forces in the outer systems for 15 years. In all that time, he had never faced anything like this. His own species had simply vanished, leaving him and a few thousand other humans in distant colonies to search for answers. Dr. Kate Sullivan walked up to him carrying a data pad. She had traveled from Nexus Prime to join the investigation. "Admiral, I've been studying the reports from all the empty human colonies. The pattern is the same everywhere. No signs of struggle, no damage, but also no people. Any theories? Ben asked. Kate shook her head. Nothing that makes sense yet, but I've put together a team of specialists. We have experts in biology, technology, and alien cultures. If there are clues to find, we'll find them. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Davis approached from the tactical station. Ryan had served in Earth's Special Forces before joining the Colonial Defense Corps. He was the kind of soldier who noticed details that others missed. Admiral, the fleet is ready, Ryan reported. We have 47 ships total. The Ethereals sent their best science vessels. The hive minds contributed their sensor ships. Even the Pelagics are sending their deep-scanning submarines in case we need to check Earth's oceans. Ben nodded. It was the largest cooperative effort between species that he had ever seen. The fact that so many aliens were willing to help search for humans showed how important humanity had become to galactic society. Take us to Earth, Ben ordered. The journey to the Sol system took 3 days. During that time, Ben met with representatives from each alien species. Captain Vex of the Ethereals was a being made of living crystal who communicated through light patterns. The hive mind representative was Queen Voice Buzz, who spoke for millions of insect-like beings working as one mind. The pelagic ambassador was Flowsinger Deep, a whale-like creature who lived in a water-filled chamber on her ship. Each species brought unique abilities to the search. The Ethereals could detect energy patterns that other sensors missed. The hive minds had incredibly detailed scanning equipment. The pelagics could sense life forms across vast distances using bioacoustic methods. Human friends gone, Buzz clicked in her translated speech. Hive minds feel empty space where human thoughts should be. Very wrong feeling, Flowsinger. Deep agreed through her water-filled communication system. The song of human activity has stopped. Ocean of space feels silent where human voices should flow. When the fleet reached the Sol system, pilot Nina Rodriguez was the first to notice something disturbing. Nina flew a fast scout ship and had visited Earth dozens of times during her career. Admiral, Nina's voice came over the communication. System, the defensive perimeter is gone. Earth always keeps patrol ships and warning beacons around the outer planets. I don't see any of them. Ben felt his worry grow stronger. Earth's defense grid was legendary. Human military doctrine called for multiple layers of protection around their home system. The fact that it was completely absent meant the disappearance had been planned. Engineer Tony Walsh, working from his position on the science ship Discovery, started scanning Earth's moon bases. Sir, I'm reading power signatures from the lunar facilities. They're operating normally, but I'm not detecting any life signs. Everything appears to be running on automated systems. Dr. Sullivan joined the conversation from her ship. Tony, can you access the base computers? Working on it now, Tony replied. After a few minutes, he came back on the channel. I'm in. The last human access was 94 days ago, exactly when communication stopped. After that, only maintenance. Programs and automated systems have been active. Ben stared at the blue and white planet that had been humanity's home for thousands of years. From space, Earth looked completely normal. Cloud patterns swirled over the continents. The lights of cities were visible on the night side. But something fundamental was missing. All ships maintain formation, Ben ordered. Science teams begin long-range scans of the planet's surface. I want to know if there are any humans down there before we get closer. The scanning took 6 hours. Teams from every species used their best equipment to examine Earth from orbit. The results were exactly what Ben had feared. Captain Vex's crystal ship Lightweaver completed the first detailed scan. Admiral Parker, Vex's translated voice was somber, Our energy sensors detect no human life signatures on the planet's surface. All cities show normal power consumption and mechanical activity, but no biological signs of human presence. Queen Voice Buzz's report was even more specific. Hive mind sensors count 0 humans on Earth's surface, buildings full of human-made objects, vehicles in correct places, but no human biopatterns anywhere. Flowsinger Deep's scan covered the oceans. Deep waters sing of emptiness. Human underwater cities show power and movement, but no human life songs reach my senses. Ben closed his eyes for a moment. 8 billion people had lived on Earth. Now there were none. All science teams, prepare for surface investigation. I want teams in every major city. Dr. Sullivan, you're in charge of the biological investigation. Colonel Davis. Your security teams will provide protection and look for any signs of what happened. As the ships moved into Earth's atmosphere, Nina Rodriguez flew her scout ship over New York City. The sight below made her gasp. Admiral, you need to see this. The city looks perfect. Traffic lights are working, but there are no cars moving. I can see into windows of buildings. Offices look like people just stepped away from their desks. Tony Walsh flew over Tokyo and reported similar findings. Everything is clean and organized, no signs of panic or rushed evacuation. It's like everyone calmly decided to leave at exactly the same moment. Ben's ship landed at the spaceport outside Washington, D.C. As he walked down the ramp, the silence hit him like a physical force. Earth had never been quiet. There should have been air traffic, ground vehicles, construction noise, and the sound of millions of people going about their lives. Instead, there was only the wind and the humming of automated systems keeping the city running. Dr. Sullivan's team set up their equipment in the empty airport terminal. Admiral, I'm starting biological scans now. I want to check for any traces of what happened to the population. Colonel Davis led his security team into the city. They moved carefully, weapons ready, but there was no sign of danger. The streets were clean, store windows were intact, even the parks looked like they had been maintained by automatic systems. "This is impossible," Ryan said over his radio. "You don't evacuate 8 billion people without leaving some trace. There should be signs of transportation, preparation, something." Ben walked through the empty streets of the capital city where he had been born. Everything looked normal, but the absence of people made it feel like walking through a museum or a movie set. "Keep searching," he ordered his teams. "There has to be something that explains what happened here. Humans don't just vanish into thin air." But as the day wore on and teams reported from cities around the world, the same pattern emerged everywhere. Humanity had disappeared completely, leaving behind a perfectly functioning but empty world. The mystery was deeper than anyone had imagined. Dr. Kate Sullivan knelt beside a desk in what had been a busy office building in downtown Chicago. The coffee cup next to the computer was still half full, though the coffee had long since grown cold and moldy. Papers were stacked neatly. The computer screen showed work that had been saved properly before the user logged off. "Alex, come look at this," Kate called to her assistant, biologist Alex Turner. Alex walked over carrying his scanning equipment. He was young and had only been working with alien contact teams for 2 years. But he had sharp eyes for details. "What did you find?" "Look at this workspace," Kate said, pointing around the office. "Everything is organized. The person who worked here didn't leave in a hurry. They finished their work, saved their files, and logged off the computer properly. Then they just walked away." Alex ran his biological scanner over the desk and chair. "I'm reading traces of human DNA, skin cells, hair fibers, normal amounts for someone who worked here regularly. But the newest traces are exactly 94. Days old. After that date, nothing. Kate stood up and looked around the office floor. Dozens of workstations showed the same pattern. Neat, organized, properly shut down, no signs of panic or fear. Alex, this isn't how people behave during an emergency evacuation. This looks like everyone knew they were leaving and had time to prepare. Meanwhile, across the city, anthropologist Rachel Stone was examining a residential neighborhood. She walked through houses that looked like their owners had just stepped out for a short trip. Beds were made, dishes were clean and put away. Personal. Items were organized in drawers and closets. Dr. Sullivan? Rachel's voice came over the communication system. I'm finding the same pattern in residential areas. These people weren't forced to leave quickly. They packed carefully and left their homes in perfect condition. Kate left the office building and walked to where Rachel was working. The neighborhood looked peaceful in the afternoon sunlight. Gardens were still being watered by automatic sprinkler systems. Solar panels on rooftops continued generating power. Everything functioned normally except for the complete absence of people. "Show me what you found," Kate said. Rachel led her into a typical family home. "Look at this," she said, opening a bedroom closet. "The clothes are organized by type and season, but I can tell that specific items are missing. Someone carefully chose what to take and left the rest neatly arranged." In the kitchen, Rachel opened the refrigerator. The perishable food was removed, but canned goods and dry foods were left in organized pantries. Someone took time to prevent waste and spoilage. Kate examined the family photos on the walls. They showed happy people living normal lives right up until the disappearance. The most recent photos had timestamps from just days before Earth went silent. Security Chief Dan Cooper's voice interrupted their investigation. "Dr. Sullivan, you need to see what we found downtown. We've discovered something important." Kate and Rachel met Dan at a large government building in the center of the city. Dan was a former police detective who had joined the Colonial Security Forces. He had spent years learning to spot clues that others missed. "Follow me," Dan said, leading them into the building. "We found a section that was sealed off before the evacuation. It looks like it was meant to be hidden." They took an elevator down several floors below ground level. When the doors opened, Kate gasped. The underground area was clearly designed for long-term habitation. There were sleeping quarters, food storage areas, and advanced communication equipment. "This facility could house several hundred people for months," Dan explained. "But like everything else, it's empty. However, look at this." He led them to a control room filled with sophisticated computers and displays. "These systems are still running. They're monitoring something, but I can't figure out what." Alex ran his scanners over the equipment. "The technology here is more advanced than anything I've seen before. Some of these components don't match human manufacturing techniques that I know about." Rachel examined personal items left in the living quarters. "The people who stayed here left very recently. I'd say within a few days of the main evacuation. They were the last humans on Earth." Marine Sergeant Kim Foster's voice came over their radios. "All teams, I found something big. You need to get to the underground facility beneath the old university campus. Bring Dr. Sullivan's science team." The team quickly traveled to Kim's location. Kim was a tough Marine who had served in the outer colonies for 10 years. She was not easily impressed or frightened, but her voice sounded shaken. The university's underground facility was enormous. Corridors stretched in multiple directions, leading to laboratories, workshops, and storage areas. The technology here was even more advanced than what they had found downtown. "Kim, what exactly did you discover?" Kate asked. Kim led them to a massive laboratory filled with equipment that seemed to bend light around itself. This room contains technology that I don't recognize at all. Look at these workstations. Kate approached one of the work areas. Computer screens showed complex diagrams and equations. The mathematics was so advanced that she could barely understand the basic concepts. Alex pointed to one of the displays. These look like dimensional calculations, mathematical models for parallel universes or alternate realities. Rachel found personal notebooks left by the scientists who had worked here. According to these notes, they were working on something called Project Gateway. The writing mentions dimensional barriers and reality displacement. Dan examined security footage from the facility's computer system. The last activity here was 95 days ago, one day before Earth went silent. I can see scientists working frantically like they were racing against time. Kim showed them storage areas filled with supplies. These people were preparing for a long-term mission. Food, water, medical supplies, everything needed for extended isolation. Kate studied the laboratory equipment more carefully. Some of the devices were still running, showing energy readings that she had never seen before. This technology is decades ahead of anything the galactic community knows about. How did humans develop this without anyone noticing? Alex found a sealed container with samples of materials that seemed to exist partially in normal space. Dr. Sullivan, these samples appear to be from somewhere else, somewhere not in our normal universe. Rachel discovered files that mentioned contact with alternate reality versions of galactic civilization. The notes spoke of warnings about creatures that traveled between dimensions, consuming entire galaxies. This changes everything, Kate said, her voice quiet with shock. The humans didn't just disappear. They found something terrifying enough to make them evacuate their entire species. Dan pulled up more security footage. Look at this. The final recording shows the lead scientist activating something called the Gateway Array. After that, the facility went dark. Kim found a message terminal that was still receiving signals. There's an automated message playing on a loop. It's in a human language, but it's being transmitted from coordinates that don't exist in normal space. Kate listened to the message. The voice was human, but it spoke of concepts that she barely understood: alternate dimensions, reality threats, and preparation for a war that would determine the survival of all life in their galaxy. We need to get this information to Admiral Parker immediately, Kate said. The humans didn't abandon us. They discovered something so dangerous that they evacuated their entire species to prepare a defense. As the team prepared to leave the underground facility, Rachel found one last note. It was written in simple language, clearly meant for whoever found it later. To our alien friends, the note read, we did not leave by choice. We discovered a threat that will destroy all life in this galaxy. We have gone to prepare. Trust the automated systems. We will return when we are ready to fight. Stay strong. Humanity remembers its friends. Kate folded the note carefully. The mystery was beginning to make sense, but the implications were more frightening than simple disappearance. Humanity had found something worth abandoning their entire world to fight. The question now was whether they would return in time and whether they would be strong enough to face whatever was coming. Intelligence Officer Craig Mitchell sat in the underground laboratory, surrounded by human computers that held secrets beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. For 3 days, he had been working to decrypt the files that Dr. Sullivan's team had discovered. What he found made his hands shake as he typed. Craig had spent 15 years breaking enemy codes and uncovering hidden information. He was used to discovering unpleasant truths, but the files from Project Gateway contained knowledge that changed everything he thought he knew about the universe. "Admiral Parker," Craig said into his communication device, "you need to see this, immediately. Bring Dr. Sullivan and the alien representatives. What I've found explains everything." Within an hour, Admiral Ben Parker arrived with the key members of the investigation team. Captain Vex of the Ethereals glowed with concerned light patterns. Queen Voice Buzz clicked nervously, sensing the tension in the room. Flowsinger Deep had connected to a portable water tank so she could participate in person. "Show us what you've discovered," Admiral Parker said. Craig activated the main display screen. Complex diagrams filled the view, showing mathematical models. That seemed to represent multiple versions of reality existing at the same time. 6 months before Earth went silent, human scientists made a breakthrough in dimensional physics, Craig began. They discovered that our galaxy exists alongside countless other versions of reality. Most of these parallel dimensions contain their own versions of galactic civilization. Dr. Sullivan studied the diagrams. These calculations suggest that the barriers between dimensions are much thinner than we thought. Travel between realities is theoretically possible. That's exactly what the humans discovered, Craig said. But they also found something else. Something that made them evacuate their entire species. He switched to a new set of files. The screen showed images that hurt to look at directly. Dark shapes that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, moving through space like cosmic storms. The humans called them devourers, Craig continued. Entities that exist partially outside normal reality. They travel from galaxy to galaxy, consuming all life and energy they encounter. According to human research, they've already destroyed hundreds of galaxies across multiple dimensions. Captain Vex's crystal body flickered with alarm patterns. "Are you saying these entities are coming to our galaxy?" "They're already here," Craig said quietly. "The human files show that Devourer scouts reached the edge of our galaxy 5 months ago. They've been slowly moving inward, testing our defenses and studying our civilizations." Queen Voice Buzz clicked frantically. "Hive minds sense no such creatures. How can humans detect what we cannot?" Craig pulled up another set of files. The humans developed new scanning technology specifically designed to detect dimensional anomalies. They built it after making contact with alternate versions of our galactic civilizations. Dr. Sullivan leaned forward. "What do you mean, alternate versions?" "In some parallel dimensions, the Devourers already attacked," Craig explained. The humans made contact with refugee civilizations that had survived previous attacks. They learned how to fight these entities, but they also learned that defeating them requires preparation time that spans years. Admiral Parker felt cold dread building in his stomach. "So the humans evacuated to prepare for war?" "Exactly," Craig said. "They found a dimension where our galaxy was still empty, uninhabited. They moved their entire population there to set up massive research and manufacturing facilities. They've been working for months to develop weapons and tactics that can actually hurt the Devourers." Flowsinger Deep sang a low, mournful note through her water tank. "Human friends sacrifice home to protect all life. Very brave, very sad." Craig activated another display. "There's more. The humans left behind automated systems that have been secretly monitoring the galaxy and preparing defenses. They've been watching the Devourer advance and getting ready for the main attack." Dr. Sullivan examined the monitoring data. "These readings show dimensional disturbances all along the galactic rim. The Devourers are definitely getting closer. The human files estimate that the main attack will begin within weeks, Craig said. The Devourers send scouts first to weaken defenses, then they attack with their full force. Admiral Parker looked at the alien representatives. Do your governments know about any of this? Captain Vex's light patterns showed confusion and fear. Ethereal science has detected some energy anomalies, but we did not understand their significance. We thought they were natural phenomena. Queen Voice Buzz was even more disturbed. Hive minds pride themselves on sensing all life forms. If these devourers exist and we cannot detect them, we are defenseless. Craig nodded grimly. According to the human research, conventional weapons and sensors are useless against the devourers. They exist partially outside normal space-time. They can drain the life force from entire planets in hours. Dr. Sullivan found files that showed the devourers' previous attacks. The images were terrifying. Entire worlds left as gray, lifeless husks. Space fleets destroyed without being able to fight back. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years wiped out in days. The humans studied these attack patterns, she said. They learned that the only way to fight the Devourers is with dimensional technology that can force them into normal reality where they can be harmed. Did they succeed in developing such weapons? Admiral Parker asked. Craig smiled for the first time in days. The latest files suggest they did. They've been working with survivor civilizations from other dimensions who have been fighting the Devourers for centuries. Together, they've created new types of energy weapons and defensive systems. Flow Singer Deep sang hopefully. When do human friends return to help fight? That's the question, Craig said. The files show they've been monitoring our galaxy constantly. They know the Devourers are coming, but they haven't sent any signals about when they'll return. Admiral Parker studied the data showing Devourer movements at the galaxy's edge. How much time do we have? Based on their advance pattern, maybe. 2 weeks before they reach the core systems, Craig replied. The outer colonies will be hit first. Dr. Sullivan activated her communication device. I need to contact all the species governments immediately. They need to know what's coming and start evacuating their populations from the outer systems. Will evacuation help? Queen Voice Buzz asked. Craig pulled up tactical analyses that the humans had prepared. The Devourers consume entire solar systems. Running won't save us unless we can get to a different dimension. Only the humans have that technology. Captain Vex's light patterns showed determination mixed with fear. Ethereals will fight, even if our weapons are useless. Better to die fighting than to surrender. The humans didn't abandon us, Admiral Parker said, looking at the data streams that were still flowing in from human monitoring stations. They're still watching. They know we're in danger. Craig found one more file that had been encrypted more heavily than the others. As he decoded it, a message appeared on the screen. It was recent, created just days ago. To the galactic community, the message read, We know you have found our research. The Devourers are almost upon you. Hold your positions and trust in the automated defenses we left behind. We have not abandoned our friends. When the time is right, humanity will return. We have learned to fight monsters that eat galaxies. Stay strong. The cavalry is coming. The message was signed by Dr. Nancy Thompson, the lead scientist of Project Gateway. Admiral Parker felt hope mixed with his fear. Send this information to every government in the galaxy. Tell them what's coming and that they need to prepare for the worst war in galactic history. Dr. Sullivan was already working on her communication device. I'll coordinate with the human automated systems. If they've been preparing defenses, we need to understand how to use them. Craig continued decoding files. There are blueprints here for weapons and shields that use dimensional technology. If we can understand them, maybe we can help defend ourselves until the humans return. Flow Singer. Deep sang a complex melody that expressed both fear and hope. Deep waters carry songs of coming storm, but also songs of friends who swim in dark, places to protect the reef. Queen Voice Buzz clicked in agreement. Hive minds will fight beside human defenses. Even if we cannot see the enemy, we trust human friends to show us the way. Captain Vex glowed with determined light. Ethereals will share this knowledge with all civilizations. If the galaxy is to survive, all species must work together. Admiral Parker looked at the screens showing the approaching darkness at the galaxy's edge. Somewhere out there, entities that consumed entire civilizations were getting closer every day. But somewhere else, in a dimension beyond normal reality, humanity was preparing to return with weapons designed to fight cosmic nightmares. The race against time had begun. Dr. Kate Morgan stood in the crystal observation dome of the Ethereal Council's primary research station, watching space itself twist and writhe at the galaxy's edge. As one of the galaxy's leading experts in dimensional physics, she had been called to analyze the growing disturbances that human files had warned about. "The readings are getting stronger every hour," Kate said to Admiral Parker, who had come to see the threat for himself. "Space-time is being pulled apart in ways that should be impossible." Through the transparent crystal walls, they could see distant stars flickering and disappearing. Entire star systems were vanishing from sensors, leaving behind empty voids where thriving worlds had existed for billions of years. Captain Vex floated beside them, his crystal body pulsing with worried light patterns. Ethereal deep space sensors confirm what human files predicted. The Devourers have begun their main assault. 3 outer colonies have gone dark in the past day. Admiral Parker watched another star disappear from the sky. "How fast are they?" "Moving?" "Faster than our worst estimates," Kate replied, checking her instruments. "At this rate, they'll reach the core systems within a week, not 2 weeks as we hoped." Tactical Advisor Chris Jackson arrived with urgent reports from across the galaxy. Chris had been coordinating the desperate defense efforts that all species were attempting. His news was not encouraging. "Admiral, we're getting reports from every species government," Chris said. "The Zephyrians lost contact with their border colonies 6 hours ago. The pelagic deep space listening posts have detected something they call the Song of Ending moving through their territory." "What about evacuation efforts?" Admiral Parker asked. Chris shook his head. "There's nowhere to run. The Devourers are attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. They've surrounded the galaxy. Any ships that try to flee are consumed before they can escape." Dr. Morgan studied the energy readings from the attacks. "These entities are more powerful than the human files suggested. They're not just consuming individual planets, they're draining energy from entire solar systems at once." Captain Vex's light patterns showed deep fear. "Ethereal homeworlds are preparing for final defense. Our energy weapons have proven completely useless. We can barely detect the Devourers, much less harm them." "What about the human automated defenses?" Admiral Parker asked. Chris activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. "That's our one piece of good news. Earth's automated systems have been activating across human space. Defensive platforms that we never knew existed are powering up around former human colonies." The display showed dozens of hidden facilities throughout human territory. Massive energy generators, shield projectors, and weapon systems that seemed to bend reality around themselves. "The technology is incredible," Dr. Morgan said. "These systems are manipulating dimensional energy in ways that our science said were impossible. But there's one problem." "What?" Admiral Parker asked. "We don't know how to operate them," Chris replied. "The systems are running automated programs, but they're not responding to our attempts to communicate or coordinate with them." Admiral Parker activated his communication device. "Get me Commander Jake Morrison at Nexus Prime. We need to try approaching the human systems from there." At Nexus Prime, Commander Jake Morrison was dealing with the largest refugee crisis in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species were arriving hourly, fleeing the advancing devourers. The station was overcrowded and running low on supplies. "Admiral Parker," Jake said when the connection came through, "we're trying to coordinate with the human automated systems, but they seem to be following a pre-programmed plan that doesn't account for the current situation." "What do you mean?" Parker asked. Lieutenant Amy Brooks, now serving as the station's chief communications officer, answered. "Sir, the human systems are powerful, but they're not designed for cooperative defense. They're waiting for something specific before they'll fully activate." "Waiting for what?" "According to the signal patterns we're intercepting, they're waiting for a command code that can only be transmitted by human operators," Amy explained. Dr. Morgan felt her heart sink. The humans left automated defenses, but they kept the activation codes with them. The systems won't fully engage until they return. Across the galaxy, the Devourer assault was accelerating. Queen Voice Buzz reported from the Hive Mind Central Cluster that 3 of their major colony worlds had been consumed. The coordinated thought patterns of billions of hive mind individuals were being snuffed out one by one. "Hive minds feel the silence spreading," Buzz transmitted. "Individual voices disappearing into emptiness, very frightening, like losing parts of our shared soul." Flow Singer deep sang mournful songs from the pelagic deep water worlds. Ocean worlds grow quiet. Life songs fade into dark silence. Deep currents carry only echoes of what once lived. Admiral Parker gathered his remaining fleet at the Sol system, hoping that being close to the human automated defenses would provide some protection. Ships from every species in the galaxy joined him, creating the largest mixed fleet in galactic history. Engineer Tony Walsh worked frantically to understand the human defensive systems. "Admiral, I've identified the main control center. It's hidden inside the moon. The facility is enormous, but it's sealed and won't respond to our access attempts." "Can we force our way in?" Admiral Parker asked. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Davis, leading the security teams, shook his head. "The facility is protected by energy barriers that our weapons can't penetrate. It's designed to be opened only from the inside or with the proper authorization codes." Pilot Nina Rodriguez returned from a scouting mission with disturbing news. "Sir, I've been monitoring the Devourer advance. They're not just consuming matter and energy. They're actually consuming space itself. Entire regions of the galaxy are being erased from existence." Dr. Morgan studied Nina's sensor data. "This explains why conventional weapons are useless. The Devourers exist partially outside normal reality. They're eating the fabric of space-time itself." Admiral Parker looked at the mixed fleet surrounding Earth. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all waiting for salvation that might never come. "How long until they reach us?" 3 days, Tony replied grimly. "Maybe less." Chris Jackson was monitoring communication channels from across the galaxy when he suddenly straightened in his chair. "Admiral, I'm picking up a signal. It's coming. From the outer system, but the frequency signature doesn't match any known species. Put it on the main speakers, Admiral Parker ordered. The bridge filled with static, then slowly resolved into a human voice. It was distant and distorted, but unmistakably human. This is Commander Steve Harrison transmitting from dimensional coordinates that don't exist in normal space, the voice said. To any galactic forces receiving this message, we know the Devourers have begun their assault. We have been monitoring your situation. Everyone on the bridge held their breath. The automated defenses will engage when the Devourers reach the Sol system, Steve continued. Do not attempt to operate the systems manually. Trust the pre-programmed responses. Help is coming, but you must hold your positions until we can return. When? Admiral Parker shouted at the communication system, even though he knew the transmission was not interactive. The cavalry is coming. Steve's voice repeated the message they had found in the research files. Hold the line. Humanity remembers its friends. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence except for the hum of ship systems. Captain Vex's light patterns showed a mixture of hope and fear. Human friends still watch, still prepare to help, but will they return in time? Queen voice. Buzz clicked nervously. Hive minds will hold position as human friends request, but Devourers consume all life. Not much time left. Flow Singer Deep sang a complex melody that expressed faith mixed with sorrow. Deep waters trust in human promise. But dark tide approaches fast. Admiral Parker looked at the tactical display showing the approaching wave of destruction. 3 days until the Devourers reached Earth. 3 days to hold together a desperate alliance of species facing extinction. All ships maintain defensive positions around Earth, he ordered. We're going to trust that the humans know what they're doing. When those automated systems activate, we'll be ready to support them however we can. Dr. Morgan continued analyzing the dimensional disturbances. Admiral, I'm detecting energy buildup in the human systems. They're definitely preparing for something big. Tony Walsh monitored the hidden lunar facility. Power levels are increasing throughout the system. Whatever the humans planned, it's about to begin. In the distance, space itself continued to unravel as the Devourers advanced. But around Earth, ancient human technology hummed with growing energy, waiting for the moment when it would finally reveal what humanity had learned during their months of preparation in another dimension. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The first wave of Devourers reached the outer edge of the Sol system like a cosmic storm made of living darkness. Admiral Ben Parker watched from the bridge of his flagship as space itself seemed to tear apart in front of the advancing entities. All ships, battle stations, Parker ordered, though he knew conventional weapons would be useless. Around Earth, the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for a fight they couldn't win. Ships from every known species floated in defensive formations, their crews ready to die protecting the cradle of humanity. Captain Vex's crystal ship Lightweaver took position near the moon, its energy systems charging to maximum power. Ethereal, fleet ready for final battle, Vex transmitted. We will fight with honor, even in defeat. Queen Voice Buzz coordinated hundreds of hive mind vessels. All hive mind thoughts focused on defense. We die as one, but we die fighting. Flow Singer Deep's massive bioship, accompanied by dozens of pelagic vessels, began singing war songs that echoed through the water-filled hulls. Deep waters sing of courage. We face the tide that ends all songs. Engineer Tony Walsh monitored the human automated systems from his position on the moon's surface. The hidden facility had opened massive blast doors, revealing weapon systems that defied understanding. Energy patterns that twisted space around them were building to incredible levels. "Admiral," Tony transmitted, "the human systems are definitely responding to the Devourer presence. Power levels are off the charts, but they're still not accepting our control commands." Pilot Nina Rodriguez flew reconnaissance missions at the system's edge, trying to gather intelligence on the approaching threat. What she saw made her hands shake on the controls. "Sir, these things are bigger than the report suggested," Nina transmitted. "The lead entities are the size of moons, but they're not solid. They exist in multiple dimensions at once. Our sensors can't get a clear reading on them." Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Davis positioned his forces around Earth's major cities, knowing that ground defense would be meaningless against entities that consumed planets. But his soldiers refused to abandon their posts. "Security teams in position," Ryan reported. "We may not be able to stop them, but we'll make sure Earth's final moments are recorded for anyone who survives." Dr. Kate Morgan worked frantically to understand the dimensional readings as the Devourers approached. Her instruments showed reality itself bending and breaking around the entities. "Admiral, I'm reading massive space-time distortions," she transmitted. "The Devourers aren't just moving through space. They're consuming the fabric of reality as they advance." The first contact came when a Devourer scout reached Jupiter's orbit. The massive gas giant simply ceased to exist, leaving behind a void that hurt to look at directly. Not destroyed, not consumed in any normal sense, but erased from reality as if it had never been there. "Jupiter is gone," Nina reported, her voice hollow with shock. "Complete erasure, no debris, no energy signature. It's just gone." Admiral Parker felt cold fear settle in his stomach. The human files had described this, but seeing it happen was different. The Devourers didn't just kill or destroy. They removed things from existence entirely. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbital defense," Parker ordered. "Stay close to the automated systems." As the fleet repositioned, the human systems finally began to respond. Massive energy barriers appeared around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. The barriers flickered with colors that didn't exist in normal space, creating a defensive perimeter that extended throughout the inner system. "The human defenses are activating," Tony shouted over the communication channels. "Energy shields, weapon platforms, some kind of dimensional anchor system. It's incredible." But even the human technology seemed small compared to the approaching wave of Devourers. Dozens of the reality-eating entities were converging on the Sol system, each one capable of consuming entire worlds. The first major assault came when 3 Devourers attacked the asteroid belt. The human automated systems responded instantly. Weapons that fired pure dimensional energy lanced out from hidden platforms, striking the entities directly. For the first time in the war, the Devourers showed signs of damage. The dimensional weapons forced parts of the entities into normal space where they could be harmed, but the damage was minimal, and the Devourers adapted quickly. "The human weapons are working," Dr. Morgan reported. "They're forcing the Devourers into our reality where they become vulnerable. But we need much more firepower." Engineer Tony Walsh watched in amazement as the human systems revealed their full scope. Hidden facilities throughout the solar system were coming online. Manufacturing centers that had been secretly building weapons for months began producing defensive drones by the thousands. "Admiral, the humans left us more than just weapons," Tony transmitted. "They left us an entire automated war machine. It's been preparing for this battle since they evacuated." The Galactic fleet finally had something useful to do. The human defensive drones were designed to work with conventional weapons, creating combination attacks that could actually damage the Devourers when they were forced into normal space. Captain Vex led the ethereal ships in coordinated energy attacks. Ethereal weapons ineffective alone, but when combined with human dimensional anchors we can harm the entities. Queen Voice Buzz directed swarms of hive mind fighters to support the automated drones. Hive mind tactics adapt to human strategy. Together we are stronger than separate, but despite their improved effectiveness, the combined fleet was still vastly outnumbered. More Devourers arrived every hour, and the entities were learning to counter the human defensive systems. Mars disappeared in a flash of non-existence when a massive Devourer broke through the defensive perimeter. The red planet simply ceased to be, leaving behind another void in space. "We're losing," Admiral Parker admitted as he watched the tactical display. "The human systems are incredible, but there are too many of them." It was then that the communication channels erupted with a signal that made everyone's heart jump. A human voice, strong and clear, transmitted from somewhere at the edge of the solar system. "This is Admiral Karen Wright of the Human Dimensional Fleet," the voice announced. "All galactic forces prepare for friendly reinforcement. We're coming home." Admiral Parker stared at his sensors in disbelief. "I'm not reading any ships out there." "That's because we're not coming from normal space," Admiral Wright's voice continued. "All vessels, clear dimensional approach vectors. The cavalry has arrived." Massive rifts began opening in space around Earth, but these weren't the reality-destroying wounds that the Devourers created. These were controlled dimensional gateways, stable and precise. Through the rifts came ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They looked like human vessels, but they moved through space in ways that defied physics. They phased in and out of reality, appeared in multiple locations simultaneously, and seemed to bend space-time around themselves. "Human fleet approaching," Nina transmitted, her voice filled with awe. "But these ships, they're using technology I've never seen before." The returning human fleet numbered in the thousands. Each ship was equipped with weapons designed specifically to fight entities that existed across multiple dimensions. As they engaged the Devourers, the tide of battle began to turn. Captain Eric Miller led the first assault wave, his ship diving through dimensional space to appear directly behind a massive Devourer. His weapons fired energy that existed in multiple realities simultaneously, tearing through the entity's defenses. Defensive Coordinator Linda Adams coordinated the human fleet's movements with the automated systems they had left behind. The combination was devastating. Human ships could pin the Devourers in normal space, while the automated weapons and galactic fleet delivered finishing attacks. "Target the large entity consuming the outer asteroid belt," Tactical Specialist Kevin Ross transmitted. "All ships coordinate dimensional anchor deployment." Admiral Parker watched in amazement as the human ships worked together with precision that seemed impossible. They moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. "Admiral Wright," Parker transmitted, "it's good to have you back." "It's good to be back," Wright replied. "But this is just the beginning. We've learned things in the other dimension that you need to know. These Devourers are just the advanced scouts." As the human fleet continued to arrive through dimensional rifts, Admiral Parker realized that humanity had returned transformed. They were no longer the enthusiastic, talkative species that had disappeared months ago. They had become something harder, more focused, carrying knowledge that had changed them fundamentally. The battle for the Sol system was turning in their favor, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. Admiral Karen Wright stepped onto the bridge of her flagship, the Reality's Edge, and looked out at the battle raging around Earth. Her ship existed partially in normal space, and partially in the dimensional realm where humanity had spent months preparing for this war. Around her, the human fleet engaged the Devourers with weapons that the old galactic civilization could never have imagined. Karen was not the same person who had left Earth 6 months ago. None of the returning humans were. The experience of living in an alternate dimension, working with refugee civilizations that had survived previous Devourer attacks, had changed them in fundamental ways. "Admiral," called Commander Rick Barnes from the tactical station, "we've successfully anchored the 3 largest Devourers in normal space. The Galactic Fleet can now target them effectively." Karen nodded. Rick had been a supply officer before. The evacuation. Now he coordinated attacks across multiple dimensions simultaneously. All the humans had been forced to evolve far beyond their original capabilities. Dr. Susan Gray approached from the science station, carrying data that would reshape galactic understanding of the universe. "Admiral, I've completed the analysis of this reality's devourer patterns. They're identical to the entities we fought in Dimension 7 Alpha. Our weapons will be fully effective." Susan had been a college professor teaching basic physics. During humanity's time in the alternate dimension, she had become one of the galaxy's leading experts on interdimensional warfare. She had studied devourer biology, tactics, and weaknesses with civilizations that had been fighting these entities for centuries. Captain Eric Miller's voice came over the communication system from his ship, the Dimension Walker. "Admiral Wright, we've eliminated the Devourer cluster attacking the outer system, but I'm reading massive dimensional rifts opening beyond Pluto's orbit. More entities are arriving." Eric had been a cargo pilot before the evacuation. Now he commanded a ship that could phase through multiple realities and strike enemies that existed outside normal space-time. His transformation, like that of all humans, had been necessary for survival. Defensive Coordinator Linda Adams to all ships came. Another transmission. Implement Pattern Delta 7. All dimensional anchor ships prepare for sustained engagement. Linda had managed a small space station before the evacuation. During humanity's exile, she had learned to coordinate fleets across multiple realities, managing battles that took place in several dimensions at once. Admiral Ben Parker, commanding the Galactic Fleet, watched in amazement as the humans fought with abilities that seemed almost magical. Their ships appeared and disappeared at will, struck enemies from directions that didn't exist in normal physics, and demonstrated technologies that were decades ahead of anything the galaxy had known. "Admiral Wright," Parker transmitted. "How did you develop this technology so quickly?" Karen's response was sobered by months of desperate preparation. "Admiral Parker, we didn't develop it quickly. We've been working for subjective years in accelerated time dimensions. We've fought mock battles against devourer simulations thousands of times. We've studied with civilizations that have been at war with these entities for millennia." Tactical. Specialist Kevin Ross coordinated with the automated systems that humanity had left behind. Kevin had been a computer programmer before the evacuation. Now he managed technology that existed across multiple realities simultaneously. "Automated systems responding perfectly," Kevin reported. "The combination of pre-positioned defenses and dimensional fleet is exceeding all projections." But even as the human fleet demonstrated their new capabilities, the full scope of the threat was becoming clear. The Devourers attacking the Sol system were indeed just advanced scouts. Through the dimensional rifts, more entities were arriving every hour. Dr. Gray's sensors detected the approaching main force. "Admiral, I'm reading over 200 major devourers approaching from multiple dimensional vectors. They're coordinating their assault across 7 different realities simultaneously." Karen felt the weight of knowledge that few beings in the universe possessed. "That's why we had to evacuate completely. Fighting the devourers requires understanding warfare across multiple dimensions. We couldn't develop that understanding while protecting our population and infrastructure." Captain Patricia Moore arrived through a dimensional rift in her ship, the Reality Anchor. Patricia had been a small-town mayor before the evacuation. Now she commanded vessels that could lock entire regions of space into normal reality, making devourers vulnerable to conventional attacks. "Admiral, the main devourer force is implementing Pattern Omega," Patricia reported. "They're attempting to consume space-time itself around the Sol system. If they succeed, they'll erase this entire region from existence." Dr. Angela White, working from the research vessel Dimensional Observer, had been a high school teacher before the evacuation. Now she was one of the galaxy's few experts on devourer consumption patterns. "I can confirm Pattern Omega," Angela transmitted. "The entities are preparing to erase not just matter and energy, but the underlying structure of reality itself. If they succeed, nothing will remain, not even empty space." Admiral Parker felt horror at the implications. "Can you stop them?" "Yes," Karen replied. "But it requires sacrifices that we hoped to avoid." Karen activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All human vessels prepare for Implementation 7. All galactic fleet commanders withdraw to minimum safe distance immediately." "What's Implementation 7? Admiral Parker asked. Dr. Gray answered. "We're going to collapse our dimensional gateways directly into the Devourer formation. It will create a reality cascade that destroys them, but it will also make this region of space uninhabitable for several years." Captain Miller's ship began the dangerous procedure of overloading its dimensional drives. "Initiating Cascade Protocol. All ships, coordinate dimensional collapse on my mark." Linda Adams managed the retreat of the Galactic Fleet while positioning human ships for the massive sacrifice required. Galactic forces fall back to Jupiter's former orbit. Human fleet, prepare for synchronized dimensional implosion. Admiral Parker realized what the humans were planning. "You're going to destroy your own ships?" "Some of them," Karen confirmed. "It's the only way to generate enough dimensional instability to disrupt the Devourer's reality consumption. We learned this tactic from the Altaran survivors in Dimension 12 Beta. Kevin Ross coordinated the automated systems to support the sacrificial attack. Automated platforms charging for maximum simultaneous discharge. This will overload most of them permanently. As the human ships prepared for their desperate gambit, the scope of their transformation became clear to the watching galactic fleet. Humanity had evolved beyond their previous nature. They had become something harder, more focused, willing to make sacrifices that other species found difficult to understand. "Why are you doing this?" Captain Vex asked over the communication channel. "Why sacrifice so much for species that aren't human?" Karen's answer was simple but profound. "Because someone has to. The Devourers will consume every galaxy, every reality, until nothing exists anywhere. We learned that in the alternate dimension. We met the survivors of thousands of dead galaxies." Dr. White added, "We discovered that the universe is full of devourer swarms. Most civilizations face them unprepared and are destroyed. Only species that completely transform themselves for war can survive." Queen Voice Buzz clicked in amazement. "Humans sacrificed peaceful nature to become galactic protectors. We didn't have a choice, Captain Moore replied as her ship prepared for dimensional collapse. Either we evolved into warriors or everything dies. We chose evolution. Flow Singer Deep sang a complex melody that expressed admiration and sorrow. Human friends swim in darkest depths to protect the reef. Very brave, very costly. The human. Ships began their coordinated dimensional collapse. Massive explosions of reality-warping energy tore through the Devourer formation. Space itself twisted and folded as the humans sacrificed dozens of their vessels to save the galaxy. When the cascade ended, the Devourer main force was scattered and weakened, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The Sol system was stable, but the humans had lost nearly a quarter of their fleet. "Status report," Admiral Wright requested. Captain Miller's ship had survived, but barely. Dimensional drives overloaded on 47 vessels. Total crew losses at 1,800. But the Devourer main force is disrupted. Dr. Gray confirmed the tactical results. The reality cascade broke their coordination. They're vulnerable to conventional attack now. Admiral Parker led the Galactic fleet back into engagement. "All ships, support the human fleet. Let's finish this." The combined fleet, now understanding how to fight entities that existed across multiple realities, pressed their attack. The Devourers, forced into normal space by the human dimensional weapons, could finally be destroyed by conventional means. But even as they won the battle for the Sol system, Karen Wright knew this was only the beginning. The Devourers would return with larger forces. Other galaxies were under attack across multiple dimensions. Humanity's real war was just starting. The galaxy was safe for now, but it would never be the same. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. They were racing against time to transform an entire galaxy before an entity the size of a solar system arrived to consume everything. "Then we accelerate the timeline," Karen decided. "All non-essential activities are suspended. Every resource goes toward species transformation and dimensional defense construction." Captain Moore nodded. "I'll coordinate with species governments. Emergency protocols across all worlds." Queen Voice Buzz clicked in agreement. "Hive minds will share collective knowledge to speed adaptation. All minds work together for survival." Flow Singer Deep sang complex melodies expressing determination. "Deep waters will carry transformation songs to all ocean worlds. Current of change flows fast." Admiral Parker looked out at the galaxy that was transforming itself to survive. The peaceful community of diverse species that had existed for thousands of years was becoming something else entirely. A galaxy-wide military organization designed for perpetual war against entities that consumed realities. "Will it be worth it?" Parker asked quietly. "Transforming everything we are to fight these things?" Karen's answer carried the weight of hard-won wisdom. "Admiral, we learned something in the alternate dimension from the survivor civilizations. The universe is not peaceful. Reality itself is under constant attack from entities that exist to destroy and consume. Most galaxies face this unprepared and are destroyed." Dr. Angela White added, "The only civilizations that survive are those willing to evolve beyond their original nature, to become eternal guardians against cosmic threats." "So we're not just saving our galaxy," Parker realized. "We're becoming part of something larger." "Exactly," Karen confirmed. "A network of transformed civilizations that exist across multiple realities, dedicated to protecting existence itself from entities that would destroy everything." Captain Vex's crystal body pulsed with determined light. Ethereals understand. Peace was illusion. War for existence is eternal truth. Mike Anderson looked up from his production schedules. The good news is that once a civilization's successful, 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Ben Parker stood in the new command center orbiting Earth, looking out at a galaxy that had been forever changed. The massive space station, built with human dimensional technology, served as headquarters for the Galactic Defense Initiative. Ships from dozens of species docked regularly, but the conversations were different now. The cheerful chatter of the old galactic community had been replaced by the serious discussions of civilizations preparing for war. Admiral Karen Wright materialized on the observation deck through a personal dimensional portal. She no longer traveled in ships when moving short distances. The humans had adapted their technology for individual use, allowing them to step between realities as easily as walking through a door. "Admiral Parker," Karen said, her voice carrying the weight of cosmic responsibility. "The dimensional monitoring stations are reporting increased devourer activity in 17 different galaxies. The main swarm is preparing for a coordinated assault across multiple realities." Parker nodded grimly. The victory at Sol had bought them time, but it had also revealed the true scope of the threat. The Devourers were not just attacking their galaxy. They were systematically consuming all reality, everywhere, across infinite dimensions. Dr. Jennifer Bell approached from the research section, carrying reports that would once have been considered science fiction. Dr. Bell had been a medical researcher before the Devourer crisis. Now she managed studies on interdimensional biology and reality-based weapons systems. "Admiral Wright, we've completed the analysis of Devourer remains from the Sol battle," Jennifer reported. "The entities are definitely part of a vast network spanning multiple universes. Each individual devourer is connected to a collective consciousness that exists outside normal space-time. Which means killing individual entities doesn't stop the larger threat," Parker observed. "Exactly," Karen confirmed. "We learned this from survivor civilizations in other dimensions. The only way to truly defeat the Devourers is to locate and destroy their dimensional nexus points. The places where they coordinate attacks across realities." Engineer Mike Anderson joined their conversation. Mike had been a factory supervisor before the evacuation. During humanity's time in the alternate dimension, he had learned to build technology that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "The new manufacturing centers are coming online ahead of schedule," Mike reported. "We're producing dimensional weapons and defensive systems for 23 different species. But the learning curve is steep." Parker understood the challenge. Humanity was sharing their advanced dimensional technology with their galactic allies, but most species found it difficult to adapt. The humans had been forced to evolve rapidly during their exile. Other species were struggling to make the same transition. Captain Patricia Moore arrived through another dimensional portal, accompanied by alien officers who were still adjusting to reality-shifting technology. Patricia now oversaw the construction of dimensional monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. "The new early warning network is operational," Patricia reported. "We can now detect Devourer movements 3 galaxies away, but the readings are disturbing." "Show me," Karen said. Patricia activated a holographic display that showed a 3-dimensional map of local reality. Multiple galaxies were marked with indicators showing Devourer activity. The pattern was clearly organized and coordinated. "They're not attacking randomly," Patricia explained. "The Devourers are systematically consuming realities in a specific pattern. They're building toward something." Dr. Angela White, monitoring the display from her research station, had developed into one of the galaxy's leading experts on Devourer strategy. Based on pattern analysis, they're creating dimensional weak points, places where the barriers between realities are thin enough for their nexus entities to cross over. Parker felt cold dread. Nexus entities? Karen's expression was grim. The Devourers we've fought so far are scouts and workers. The Nexus entities are their command structures, individual beings the size of solar systems that exist across hundreds of dimensions simultaneously. Mike Anderson checked his manufacturing reports. At current production rates, we can equip maybe half the galaxy with basic dimensional defense systems before a Nexus entity arrives. That's not enough, which is why we're implementing the expansion protocol, Karen announced. Parker looked at her with concern. What expansion protocol? We're sharing complete dimensional technology with volunteer species, Karen explained. Not just weapons and defenses, but the fundamental science needed to exist across multiple realities. Dr. Bell understood the implications immediately. You're asking other species to undergo the same transformation that humanity experienced. It's the only way, Karen said. Fighting the Devourers requires thinking and existing in ways that transcend normal reality. Either the galaxy evolves, or it dies. Captain Vex materialized nearby in a flash of crystalline light. The ethereal had been one of the first aliens to successfully adapt human dimensional technology. His crystal body now existed simultaneously, in normal space and 3 parallel dimensions. Ethereal Council has voted to accept full transformation, Vex announced. We will become like humans. Exist in many realities to fight entities that consume all realities. Queen Voice Buzz arrived with a delegation of hive mind representatives. The insectoid species had adapted dimensional technology to their collective consciousness, allowing millions of individuals to coordinate across multiple realities. Hive minds choose evolution, Buzz declared. Individual sacrifice for galactic survival. We become what we must become. Flow Singer Deep's voice echoed from communication speakers connected to her water-filled dimensional chamber. Pelagic. Depths accept transformation. Deep currents will flow through many realities to preserve the reef of existence. Parker realized what was happening. The galaxy was undergoing the same transformation that humanity had experienced. Species were willingly abandoning their comfortable existences to become something harder, more focused, designed for endless war against cosmic threats. What about species that refuse the transformation? Parker asked. Dr. White answered from her monitoring station. We've prepared sanctuary dimensions for non-combatant species, realities where they can exist safely while transformed species fight the Devourers. But there's a cost, Karen added. Species that remain in sanctuary dimensions will be dependent on others for protection. They can never return to the galactic community as equal partners. Captain Moore activated additional displays showing the scope of the transformation. 18 species have voted for full dimensional evolution. 12 have chosen sanctuary status. 7 are still debating. Mike Anderson's production reports showed the massive scale of the undertaking. We're building transformation facilities throughout the galaxy. Each species will need customized technology to adapt their biology to multi-dimensional existence. How long until the galaxy is ready? Parker asked. 2 years for basic transformation, Karen replied. 5 years for full combat readiness. But we may not have that much time. Dr. Bell's long-range sensors detected disturbing readings. I'm reading dimensional disturbances that suggest a nexus entity is already approaching our local reality cluster. Estimated arrival in 18 months.